Welcome to Let's Take a Moment for Youth. This podcast is brought to you by the Wheelock College of Education and Human Development's Center for Future Readiness at Boston University. My name is Scott Solberg, and I'm joined by
Annie Bell
and
Shrey Venkatesan.
All right. The Take a Moment series is designed to explore innovations and create opportunities that create opportunities for all children and youth to develop their full potential. Our podcast is designed for those of you interested in or who are currently working in schools, community-based organizations, or your concerned parents and caregivers seeking new ideas and resources. But before we begin to introduce today's topic, Shrey, can you tell us a little bit about the opening and closing music?
Yeah, so the music featured in the podcast is by Emmanuel Cabral. Emmanuel composed his music while participating in Sociedad Latina's Youth Leader program as a youth artist in October 2024. Sociedad's bio states, as a rising 11th grader in 2024, Emmanuel found interest in the Music Clubhouse program, where he explored many themes centered around musical arts, musical performance, composition, and creative productions. Emmanuel has been with Sociedad Latina for a year and a half and strives to explore more musical aspects about as learning piano, making original music, and performing with his peers. During Emmanuel's time as a youth artist in Sociedad Latina, he explored beat-making software and creatively produced his original song, Claro, in 2025, a Latin jazz-like fusion instrumental with easy, catchy phrases that spark listeners' ear in relation to who he is as a person. Emmanuel, when we first heard your song, Claro, we knew we found the perfect way to introduce and close our podcast. Thank you, and thank you, Sociedad Latina, for the tremendous work you do.
Yeah, it's amazing. And amazing just how much talent our youth have. And I'm just hoping we can continue to redesign our education and community-based learning spaces so that youth have a chance to really express the skills that they're developing, because it's just incredible. So today's topic is self-exploration skills. And I believe, Annie, you have a quote to start us off.
I do. And so this quote is actually from a book written by our very own Scott Solberg, talking about self-exploration skills and all the things that go into individualized career plans. So the overall goal is to create a playground environment where youth can explore how the talents they've identified are valuable in the workforce and what specific careers are aligned with their skills. This is the first step in putting students in the driver's seat of their future and making school relevant to them.
So what do you guys think about that? Shrey, what are your thoughts on that?
So I was in an education system that was super rigid, right? So at least in my school and for the people around me. And parents and other adults mostly decided our career and education paths. I think I was barely even in the passenger seat of my future plans, and my sisters felt the same way. So I remember one of my sisters crying for weeks when she was 15 because she really wanted to go into the business and commerce side of education, right? But my grandfather really, really wanted her to be an engineer. And today, she's 30 and does software engineering, but I don't know if she likes it. So I think creating a playground environment is very, very important because having the autonomy in making their educational and career decisions can change so much for youth. And I'm not saying that families shouldn't be involved in this decision making, but youth should have the freedom to make their own decisions as well.
Well, and I think maybe it's a both and, right? So we have to help our families understand the value, right? If all I understand is the engineering part of things, then when I see something like, business and education, I don't know what that is necessarily. So part of the process, we have to make this a family project, right? As we're going forward and really build our collective capacity to really explore these things.
Yeah.
But yes, at the end of the day, I think people are happier mental health-wise when they're pursuing things they find meaningful. So yeah, that would be the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
But hopefully we can work it out where everyone's excited and can get behind it. Andy, what about you?
Well, so I grew up in a family that really valued college education, and both my parents went to college and didn't necessarily come from families where that was the norm, I would say, just generationally. And so they really felt that my sister and I both getting a college education before any sort of major career decision was sort of the next step, outside of high school. And so when I sort of started to explore jobs and passions and hobbies and things like that, I realized that what I envisioned myself doing as a career really did require college. So I wasn't upset about that. And it was, I guess the conversation that we had, the sort of family project was, okay, well, what will you study in college to do whatever the career is that you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think neither my sister or I were upset with having to go to college. We both had things that we wanted to pursue, that we enjoyed, etc. And so that was okay. But there were a lot of things that I wanted to do in middle school and high school, sort of dream careers, that I didn't feel like I could try out in any way before going to college. And so what I ended up pursuing in college education was something that I had the opportunity to sort of tuck into a little bit, explore a little bit in different ways, and it felt safe and doable and like a smart choice, I guess you could say. So I think I do wonder, more often than not probably, if I had had more of a playground environment in like school when it came to exploring careers, if I would have ended up doing something different than education. Like if I had, for a lot of years, I really wanted to be a fashion designer, I really wanted to be an architect, I wanted to be an interior designer, and there were, extracurriculars where you could do pieces of that, but I never felt like I was able to, like, learn enough to make the decision to go to college for that thing.
Yeah. And I think, it's so interesting knowing you is that now you're doing the same thing around education. You're redesigning the spaces, right?
Exactly.
And that's been kind of the theme all the way through. But without knowing what I can do with this and how to do it, it's tough and all that. But it's also fascinating how you two are on such opposite spectrums, right? One, the family, here's where it's going to be. And the other family, no, whatever you want to choose. But I don't know what I want to choose. So it's interesting to see that it really is a challenge, right? And if, as a family project, it's not just let's decide together. It's also... Can you feel confident and feel like there's something there, right? Who are the role models or images that I can find of people doing some of those things, right? And then in the sense for your sister, it's like, can we look at the economic opportunities that might come with this, right? Can we see that actually this has a viable, pathway forward? So, yeah, it's a very interesting piece when we talk about that.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's a big ask, I think, at a district or a school level, too, is... how can you possibly introduce students to everything that they may be interested in? And I think that's kind of where I get stuck, is it's like, I wish, and I dream about the day that I can be an architect who owns a bakery and, whatever. But that's not what happened, and I'm okay with that.
In time we'll talk about there are specific roles in schools that can play that role to really help design that. And we'll start, exploring some of those down the road because I think they're really critical. Youth learn better when they're in the milieu of what that is they're wanting to learn about. So it's great. All right. So today, talking about self-exploration skills.
Yes, we are. We are.
So this is a major component, what we used to call individualized learning plans. We're going to call them individualized career plans because no one liked the term individualized learning plans. We talked about that in the last couple sessions. What I thought would be interesting is, so the whole point of self-exploration skills is that instead of just saying, here's the occupation, let's figure out who we are as a person. Right. What's the talent, skills, values, interests, right? And these are all emerging. These are malleable things. And so it's sort of like taking a gauge of where I'm at. And then once I have that, and that's a skill to kind of reflect on those, right? Yeah. We can begin talking about maybe my personal brand, my just identity components that are coming forward. And then from that, we can then move over. In our next session, we'll talk about the career exploration. But we want to just slow this whole thing down and say, well, who am I in all of this, right?
Right.
As we go forward. And so I'm curious for the two of you, like, when did you discover your talent? How did this happen?
Yeah, so funny story. So when I was in middle school and through high school, I wanted to be a chef, right? Because that was my talent, or I thought the only talent I had.
Well, and it is a good talent, by the way.
Right.
I've tasted your food. It's phenomenal. So
Thank you. So, well, I didn't have the chance to explore other avenues. Like we were talking about earlier, the playground setting, right? Having the option to explore those avenues is a lot, right? And in my school, we did not have like career-related activities or resources regarding to that at all. But then my father said I couldn't be a chef, so here we are. Um, but I discovered my talent and skill for advocacy and speaking up for people in college. So when I was a sophomore, I helped create a gender-affirming product program for undergraduate students at Boston University. So where transgender students could get access to one free gender-affirming product per semester, and it was entirely funded by grants. So the moment that was like a lot for me, that changed a lot for me because I knew that I could use my privilege as a student to advocate for those who didn't have that privilege as well. And I pursued that idea and that discovery through my summer of sophomore year of college and decided that I wanted to go into law and advocacy since I realized that was my talent and that's what I wanted to do as well.
Yeah, but also this entrepreneurial quality is pretty strong as well. It's really interesting. And, for those just listening for the first time, you're coming in from India. So when you're talking about not having it in schools, it's because India is kind of struggling with that career advising piece right now, right? It's starting to build it up.
For sure.
But wow, just the thought of you coming from there to here and immediately you just went at it and started creating things. So once you got into an environment that seemed to be you doing that, but here in a college, no one's telling you to.
Right. Exactly.
Where did that come from? Where did that spark in you say, oh, here's what I want to do?
Right. So when I moved here, right, my first year, I didn't realize that we could go and join clubs and things like that because nobody tells you those things. Nobody tells you that, hey, you need to join clubs so you can build your experience as well as explore what you need to do, or you need to go to office hours so you can build connections with professors.
Exactly.
Like, nobody tells you those things. So I was going to an event freshman year to the club that I developed this program for, right? And that was really fun because I could meet people like me as well, other transgender and other queer folks. And I guess that was a big changing point because I knew that there were people outside and I knew that there was a community for me that would support me no matter what path I take. So that led me to explore different avenues where I could help my community as well. So that's where that whole thing came in.
Yeah, and so everyone needs that place where they can feel like they belong.
Right.
It allows whatever one's identity is, allows them to feel confident, allows them to feel that they can actually thrive, right?
Yeah.
And you found that. It's fantastic. So that's really exciting. And then out of that, you created all kinds of amazing things.
Yeah.
That's great. And we'll learn more about this whole law thing at some point. If not today, we'll come back to it. Annie, what's your story?
Well,
We're wanting to know. What is your story, Annie?
I want to know that too. It's funny, actually, as you were, I guess, sort of segueing into this part of our conversation today, I realized that when I had initially thought through the self-exploration part of it, I sort of inadvertently focused on the sort of pre-work experiences that I did as opposed to anything else. And so I think one of the things that stuck with me was that question of who am I? And that's a question that has inspired other activities at the Research Center. So you hear it a lot. But I had really focused on how I had a passion and an enjoyment for working with kids. And that started in elementary school, and how then I became a camp volunteer and then a camp counselor. And then, I don't know, education seemed like a foregone conclusion as a career path. But I'm not sure that I did much, like, self-skill exploration. And so now I'm a little bit stuck, I'm going to be honest. I think I've probably done more skill exploration related to just who I am as a person and more who am I, sort of soul searching, if you will, since I've been in college.
Yeah.
It wasn't really something that I did pre-college.
Right.
And so it's something I've done a lot. I did a little bit of it last night too, thinking about grad school and all of that, you know, what the potential is there. So I think I'm not sure I really have an answer. I think I sort of fell into where I am, and I'm not mad about it. I love what I do. I loved what I majored in. I loved the community that I developed in college, but I'm not sure that there was a lot before then.
Yeah, and I think what you're describing is really very common and great. I mean, you get into something that's exciting. You're getting great feedback. You're enjoying it. I mean, what's more fun than playing with kids all day?
Exactly.
And then you get the summer. Now, are they going to pay me to do this? I mean, there's just this whole kind of going, right? And so it's like, what am I doing this summer? Oh, I've got my gig.
I did it for, I think, 10 summers.
10 years, right? So you get into those habits, and those are still realizing the skills you learned is an important part of the process.
Right.
But the other part you're describing, is what's my choice? Like if I were to choose kind of a trajectory, a pathway, what does that look like? You know?
Yeah. And I'm not sure that I would have chosen any different, you know? I don't know. And I think that's part of it, is that my recollection isn't that I necessarily chose education because of those skills or because of those experiences. It more was just like, oh, it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe subconsciously, I don't know, I knew that my skills worked, but it wasn't like one equals the other, you know? So.
Yeah. But what you're also describing is tremendous human skills. And that was where you're at, right? And you're laughing because you know that's a segue into one of our big activities that we're going to be talking about, right? So yeah, this idea that we used to call them soft skills, nobody liked that. We called them non-cognitive. That was even worse. And then I was at this meeting, and I wish I had invented it because I felt like, I wish I had been the one that said that. But they talked about durable skills. And they said that these are the skills that once you have them, they're for life.
Right.
And you're just continuing to build on them.
Yeah.
Technical skills change all the time. You have to keep up with things. So this idea of durable, and we added human. That's again, I wish I came up with that too, but that was actually another individual as well that came up with that. But this idea of thinking of these as durable human skills is the critical part of where we're developing all the time, right?
Right.
And so that's another part of leaning in, and that's kind of what you were looking at, I think, as you were looking back at your skill sets.
Yeah.
It was all around those things, yeah. But I think cooking's a good technical skill, by the way. Let's not lose that. It's an important one.
That one counts for a lot.
Makes a lot of people happy in this world. So, yeah. So did you want to add any more? I see you got some education design background. You got some things you're looking at.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
I can. I think it was more just sort of my progression. You know, you transferred, right, Shrey?
I didn't.
Nope.
You didn't?
Came straight in.
No.
Okay. Why did I think you did? I don't know.
That's funny.
But I transferred colleges, and the timing lined up perfectly that I came to BU as they unveiled this educational design for transformative social futures pathway within the education college. And I was able to take part in some of the first iterations of these classes, and I realized, wait a minute, I can combine an ability to work with kids, an ability to be creative, an ability to sort of think outside the box or imagine a different way of doing things with education. And so even if that also wasn't a conscious like self-exploration skill choice, it got me to where I am now. And so again, like I am very happy with all of that. And I think that I kind of describe it as like this amorphous pathway because you sort of make it into what it is. And I think that sort of ties into the playground metaphor that we talked about earlier. It ties into this whole skills are something that you can accrue across a lifetime thing. And so I think in a way, maybe one of the skills is that I thrive in a little bit of a flexible environment, you know, and sort of turn things into what I want them to be.
Well, let's just add a little more to that. So you and I was teaching a class, so that's when we met. But you and I actually met in our new career sciences building, our beautiful
Yes, we did.
glass building that's gorgeous. And we just sat and talked. And in that conversation, it was clear that you're very complex, first of all, right? And you were having trouble saying, I don't feel like I belong here because I've also got these other interests, like in architecture and structural designs. And I was like, yeah, and I've seen what that looks like.
Yeah.
And so it was that kind of sense of, we got to find some places for you to see what it is you've got an interest in, right?
Right.
And so I think also that conversation, when you then saw the new major and this emphasis coming up, it kind of felt right, because that's what we had been describing. It's like this became a moment to say, I could start here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the important part of this, why we call this a process, right? And it does take conversation. It takes, and sometimes it's just peer conversations, right? It doesn't have to be always a professional. I like having in a classroom where the youth are all talking about these things, because we're getting a sense of caring, encouraging support to think through how we can, engage ourselves in this world. And it's all about self-discovery. So I just thought it's interesting. Yeah.
Well, and at that point I was working at an interior design firm. And I was really kind of leaning into the design part and trying to figure out, well, maybe this is what I can do post-grad, even if I get a degree in education. Like, what would that look like?
Yeah.
And so, there have been a number of, I think, of life-changing conversations that I've had with you, other professors, friends of mine.
And it's going to continue.
Yeah. That's
All
good.
right. So one of the things that you both did was look through some of the resources for today that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious as to what you may have found.
Yeah.
go
So, I just loved a lot of them, I'll be honest.
There are some good ones.
Yeah, right? And the first thing that comes to mind is the Sustainable Career Card Sort. I think it is just so great. So basically, it is a card sorts activity that connects the person's career and aspiration goals with like real world problems, right? And I think this is especially important because it encourages careers and finding opportunities in public service and nonprofit sectors. And this card sorts is something that I wish I had, because as someone interested going into public interest work in the future, it took me until like 19 to figure that out, right? And the card sort is not only asking, what do I want to do, but it's asking, how do I want my work to impact the world? And I think that is so important. And I also think that it highlights careers that are not usually highlighted in spaces, like in community organizations and advocacy and policy, etc. What do you guys think?
I think you're right on target. Annie?
Oh, I loved it. And ironically enough, actually, my sister is getting a master's in urban planning currently. And she's a TA for a class. And I actually don't know what the class is currently, but she did a values card sort with her students. And I think there's like 100 people in the class. And we were texting about it. And I sent her this card sort. And she has so many people in this class. I think they're freshmen and sophomores. So some of them are studying, environmental policy or biology. It's sort of one of those like huge auditorium classes. And so the careers in there and the values in there are applicable to what they're talking about. And she was so excited to bring it into class and see kind of what their reactions were to it, because it was so applicable to who they were as people, and then the fact that they were early on in college and making these career decisions, and sort of anecdotally were encouraged and like want to pursue something that changes the world. So
that's pretty awesome.
I think it's great.
Did she have any feedback on how it went?
I'm not sure she's done it yet.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a
Coming
once
up.
a week class.
Well, we'll get back. We will make sure we hear about that.
I will check with her.
That's very fun. Yeah, I think this is the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which critical to supporting our planet. And as you said, these are meaningful impacts that we can have, right? And I think youth today want to have meaning. I think we've always wanted to have meaning, right? So why am I going to school? Well, to go to school because you need a future. Well, that's not enough. But when I see something that is valuable that I want, then we start thinking differently about the way education is going to be an important part of that, right? And that could be in and out of school learning experience, not just the bricks and mortar of a school. But it gets it going around there. I mean, there's people that are interested in those topics. There's a thing there that's purposeful, right? And so I think it's a great way to start. And it's great. This particular one I'm excited about. It's from colleagues in Switzerland that put it together. And the European Union's had a lot of work on this, and they've done some nice research and shown its impact and things. So,
Yeah.
and what I also like about it is, and everyone will have access to it when you go to our YouTube channel. You'll see a link to it, but basically you just go to the store, copy them front and back, and you've got your cards done. So, maybe a little cardstock paper.
Perfectly formatted.
It's ready to go. Color, beautiful, easy instructions. So it's kind of fun. It's a different way of thinking, of doing the process. I also like it because we're not just doing a paper and pencil test. We're letting the youth, and I'm hoping if parents, if you get this, do it with your children too, because let's see where you fit together, right? Which ones do you each like?
Yeah.
Right.
Because it allows the voice and the framing to come from the individual, not just from an assessment tool, right? So that's another reason I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
And then next time we have our session, we're going to go through all the career opportunities. We have a whole list, and then how to follow up. Today we're just focusing on exploration, but career exploration comes next after self-exploration. But yeah, so that'll be fun.
Yeah. So one that I picked out was the Castle Skills Framework.
Now, what's CASTLE? You need to explain that.
I do need to explain that, and I fear you're going to have to be the one to explain it.
Okay, so
I
the
never get the acronym right.
collaborative on academic, social, and emotional learning. I know it's a lot.
It's a long one. I'm not great with long acronyms.
Okay.
But I do love Castle. They're great. So one of the first times that I saw it actually was in that class that you taught. And we were going through this skills framework, which basically separates skills into 5 social and emotional competencies. And then those get tied into skills that are actively sought and wanted by employers. So the 5 competencies are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. And you can almost use it as like I can circle this one, and I have this one, and I have this one. And then you can put it right onto a resume. And I think that might have even been what we did. And I just really loved this skills first approach. I think until then, it had been so much like, well, what's your experience? What job have you done in this field? Or what course have you taken? And this was just saying, no, these are the skills as a person that I can bring to the table. Excuse me. And that can, transfer around, tied to experience, but not 100%. And so I just thought that I just really love it.
No, that's it's fantastic. And I think what I like about it too is that, as you said, it can go right into the resume, right? So funny story. So we'll talk about my daughter. She's going to love that. I've been training her since she was little, that I'm going to talk about her all the time. Anyway, she, what was it, 10 o'clock at night? I think it was 10, it might have been 8 o'clock, but for me that's 10. So it's late at night, and it's Sunday, and the next day she needs to turn in her application for some club, and she needs to have a resume. And so I'm like, oh, okay. So I took out that same sheet that you used, and I put it down in front, and I said, okay, find yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Because just circle the ones that connect with you. And then you're right. It went right into the resume.
Right.
And they had done some other Strengths Finder kind of things, which I do like the Strengths Finder. At some point we'll talk about those. So she had that data as well. And between those two, we were able to form a brand as well as the talent right away. Already the rest of it was kind of there, all the different things they had done in the clubs and all that stuff. But this ability to quickly go from, I don't know, right? Don't you hate that question? Can you tell me about yourself? It's like, what? Where do I start?
Right. Exactly.
To, oh, yeah, I can find myself here. Right?
Yeah.
And so really exciting. And then one of my colleagues from Japan started with, we were doing our research on this SEL work cross-culturally, said, yeah, we don't like the word self. Because that means you're somehow different and you're trying to separate yourself, right?
Interesting.
This is part of the collectivism thing. It's very interesting because then how do you do career development if we can't use the word self? Well, we've got to figure that out.
Right.
So you see me starting to drop a lot of things up. It's exploration. It's, it's career exploration or just whatever. But we're trying to find ways to get away from that as much. But my thought was, well, then that's why you do it as a peer group. You put it down in front of the peers and say, talk about it, share with each other, right, what you see in them, or get a project together and then identify which skills you each contributed. Because there needs to be a way to say that you do have something that's about you.
Right.
Again, it's not just coming up with skills that we all share. What are those other unique ones? But doing it in a way that's culturally responsive becomes really important when we think about these things, right?
Yeah.
And for some, it does feel uncomfortable to say, I don't want to be different than everyone.
Right.
Right.
That's a little nerve-wracking, for sure.
Yeah.
But that was a little bit of ed design right there. Changing the structure of how you do the same activity.
Yeah.
And this is probably like a niche thing, but you know how interest profiles, whatever, they'll often tell you to choose 5 or choose 6 things that reflect you, or up to 6.
Yeah.
What I really like about the Castle skills framework is that there's no limit and there's no minimum.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not like you have to pick 5 of them.
Right.
You can truly circle the ball
Mm-hmm.
if
Yep.
you feel that accurately
right.
reflects who you are.
Yeah.
And that's just like a little thing, but I really appreciated that.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
really, I totally agree. And, it's pretty well, it comes from good stock. They went to all the different, what the businesses were saying they were looking for. And I'm
Right.
not saying that we're just trying to help our kids become great for business.
Right.
But it's good to know, right? Because those same skills are going to support you in whatever endeavor you want to do.
Right. I mean, they
Right.
include like being able to talk to a person. You know, that's just a life skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's outside of the workplace.
And I think we have to add in, it's not on here, but we will add it before it goes live, is the transformational SEL skills, which gets into more of the culturally responsive skill sets.
Yeah.
Recognizing that we got to get along with people.
Yeah.
That turns out that's an important skill. I don't know if you knew
Yes,
that.
it is.
Yeah. Complex communication. How do we communicate with people with different languages, with different individual differences that may be going on, disabilities and things? We need to all learn how to do that. And
Right.
so our youth are great at all this stuff. We just have to give
Right.
them permission and then validate that they have been developing these skills. So the transformative SEL, they're using it in Boston Public Schools. I'm very excited about that. But a great professor, Yagers, was the one who kind of put this together and has the whole team working on it. But I
That's
think
great.
it's a nice way of adding more to what you just said, the redesign that we have to look
Yeah.
at, making it more universal design. So, all right. Whew. Well, that was fun.
That was
Yeah.
Trey, you've got another one.
Yes. So I've got the Kansas Individual Plan of Study.
Which is another name for ILP, or what we're calling individualized career plans, right? Every state has their own name, but
Yes,
we're going
they
to
do.
use the state names when we call them out because
Yes.
we're excited about the work they're doing.
So far we've had IPS, ILP, and ICP. So we've got
We
to keep
we
up.
have MyCap in Massachusetts, so we don't
Right.
want to forget that. Yes, but
There we
otherwise, I'll be
go.
in trouble.
There's a PCAP someplace else.
There's a PCAP, yep, ICAP,
Yeah.
individualized career and academic plan. So yeah,
We've got so many.
Why
But
choose just one?
so the Kansas IPS framework is pretty interesting. So one of the first things I noticed was how they define the success of a high school graduate, right, from Kansas and their outcomes. So in the outcomes part, they mentioned like post-secondary success. So in a world where higher education is becoming more and more expensive
Oh,
and
yeah.
competitive, I think it is important the way that Kansas is doing it is that they're taking a broader and an open approach, right? So rather than seeing post-secondary success purely as a traditional four-year college path, so the IPS framework acknowledges a range of opportunities. So technical education, military service, apprenticeships, workforce entry, I can keep going on. But
That's great.
yeah, and I also really like how the IPS is developed collaboratively. So it goes back to what we were talking about, the collectivist culture, right? So it collaborates collaboratively by students, school members, and family members. And I think that's so important. And I personally relate to this just because, like, I'm coming from a collectivist culture and I understand the importance of having family members looped into your decisions. Yeah.
oh, absolutely. So I want to call out Natalie Clark and Stacy Smith, who were the state leaders in Kansas that really helped spearhead, and they had other colleagues too, which I apologize for not mentioning. But these were two I worked on with our state leaders network. And it's amazing. I mean, we have state leaders that are out building these, what I call implementation policies, right? How do we do this work? What are the resources I need? And this guide that you're sharing has it all in one
Yeah.
place, right? What were some of the cool things you saw that were inside there?
Like I mentioned, I was just like really mind blown because it was something that we were talking about earlier when I first joined the center, was just defining post-secondary success. I was talking to Chong Park about it, who works at our center. And I was just so mind blown that that was an option that that is provided, you know, because that's not something people talk about.
No.
You know, because like I grew up with, like Annie said earlier, the fact that college was a need. Like, this is
The
what you're
centerpiece.
going to do, and you're going to go to college. And I was just like really surprised and happy that there is an option outside of that.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I know, you know, one of my colleagues, Bill Simon's son, was just telling his, you know, it was in a very wealthy, you know, school district. They were all saying, go to college. He goes, but I want to be a chef. But I want to be a chef. But I want to be a chef. And he finally did, you know, and did that. But it's like this, the system has been very focused on that. Kansas is one of the first states. Massachusetts is following, others as well. Realizing that financial debt
Right.
for so many, the college early dropout or leaving rate, not completing rate, not going in there with a real plan for what it is I'm doing and how I'm going to get there, or
Right.
just the finances involved in it, right? Or things happen, right? Family member needs you back. Things happen, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm excited that Kansas has done, and we're also doing it here in Massachusetts, is students need a plan for all of it. It's not a single plan.
Right.
They need backup plans.
Yeah.
And even if they're not saying, I'm not going to college, fine, that's great. Look at it as a pathway, right? But let's talk about the other ones you're looking at, and let's start
Right.
moving forward. Because in time, you may get to that point of saying, hey, maybe this is something I want to look at. As they gain confidence, as they gain a sense of purpose, as they
Right.
see the connection, things are going to change. We have so many students who did not do well in high school that are now doctors and lawyers and other things, right? Because something sparked them, and then they grew into that. So we just want them
Yeah.
to understand the process, but
Right.
not to hold everyone accountable to one standard. And that's what Kansas is doing. They're giving schools credit
Yeah.
for producing students that are now ready for adulthood in some way and know the different pathways. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and that goes back to our initial quote about being in a playground, right? Like showing that there are so many things you can play with and not just going on a swing.
That's right.
You know, I think
right.
that's really
That's
important.
good.
Metaphor.
Yeah. And again, we have other states that are following. Indiana's in that line as well. And they're coming up with dashboards to be able to help us see the value of helping you prepare for that transition without putting a particular thou shalt
Right.
on the college piece. So this is great stuff.
Well, and I would even say the thou shalt on four-year college.
Yeah.
Because that was the environment that I finished high school in.
Right.
Was the statistics were four-year college.
Right.
And I remember so many conversations and presentations from school counselors who talked about four-year college degree,
That's right.
four-year college degree. And if I had the chance, the prompting, I don't know, something, to take 20 minutes and go, okay, what do I do if I take a gap year and then I go to a four-year college? What do I do if I go to 2 years at community college and then go get a bachelor's? What do I do if I go right into four-year college? And in hindsight, there were so many reasons for me to take a gap year that
Yeah.
I sort of took a gap year into disjointed semesters and then transferred. But I wonder, you know, what would it have been like if there had been the encouragement from the state level, the district level, to say, well, what are your options?
Let's explore 'em.
Let's explore.
Yeah, I started off in a 2-year college because I didn't have the skills coming out of high school when all I did was play soccer all day. So I was like, I just wasn't focused on learning. But what that meant was I didn't feel confident. And the 2-year college helped me do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I had to learn a lot because I first-gen college student, there was a lot of learning took place. My favorite was when I was studying for this one class, and I just had one class. It was Psychology 1, or 101, or whatever it was called, right? And it was the comedian, a professor up there, and I went, oh my God, this is what I'm going to do. So it was very fun.
And that's
But-
exactly what you did do.
and that's exactly what I did. But what was funny was I'm studying. That's all I have to do. I'm just studying. And I keep getting a B on the exam. And I turned to the person next to me. I said, got an A. I said, well, how do you do that? He goes, oh, I just read the summary in the back of the chapter. And you know what I said? There's a summary in the back of the chapter. If you look at my book, which is in my office, it has so much, you know, yellow, pink, red lines. I read every chapter. I just never got to the end. And I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to read it like a novel. Right? I didn't have these skills. I had no idea. And so I
Read
wasn't
the
chunking what I was
headings or-
learning. I was just trying to start from the beginning and try to read through. And I never got to the end to know, oh, there's a summary? That might have been helpful. So yeah, I think there's a lot to learn on these things. And 2-year colleges are a great route for a lot of things on that. But it's also just about feeling that I belong, feeling that I can, right? And that can happen in lots of different ways.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to mention too, on our site from Kansas, they did a great job of putting a family guide. And so there's a whole nice way, and it's really well done in part because they use a lot of our concepts, which is good. Yes, it's always fun. I loved working with them, and they taught us a lot. So it's fun to have these collaborations.
Yeah.
But to see the ideas that we're talking about reflected right there for families, it's like, please go there. You'll see all of the stuff we're talking about for families to get engaged in this, because it's again, we want it to be a big project.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But let's see, where are we at now? Annie, is there another? You got one?
This is an ILP, so we've got a series of individualized.
Now, who
learning
calls it
plans.
individualized learning plans?
Kentucky.
Oh my gosh, Kentucky, come on.
And Kentucky put together 3 great playbooks for different grade levels. So one is about individualized learning plans for kindergarten to 4th grade.
That's right.
One is for grades 5 to 8, and one is for 9 to 12. And they did this all in partnership and pulling from the Castle Developmental Framework for the Integration of Social and Emotional Learning and Career and Workforce Development.
Wow, it's a big title. Did you practice that? That's a
I
lot.
did actually
Okay,
have to
good.
practice that. I didn't think about that. And I just think that they're really great. So it's all developmentally appropriate activities linked right there in the playbook. And they talk about how it's not just things that you do in the classroom, but it brings in families, it brings in counselors, it brings in librarians, it brings in community organizers.
Absolutely.
And so they lay out this sort of coordinated network that supports ILPs and career exploration and self-exploration across kindergarten to 12th grade. And I think that that's also so amazing. Like, I remember my parents talking about back to school night in elementary school. And that was when they first started being told, open that savings account for your kid's college. And they were like, this is really early. And then they said, no, that actually was not early at all. 12th grade graduation comes quickly. And so it just really kind of shows that it takes a lot of forethought. And, some of the activities for kindergartners are just like, what career do you see in this picture? What tools do you see? What skills do you have? And then, of course, it develops into resumes and college applications and whatnot. But it starts on such a nice developmental level.
That's amazing, yeah.
And spans all of the years. And I think that that's really great.
Yeah, and I think just to caution people, we're not saying in preschool they're going to be making career decisions. What they're learning is about the world is organized around occupations. Those occupations have skills. They have people with interests. They have people that have learned certain things.
Yeah.
The sooner they learn the reasoning behind it, and this is, now we're quoting Professor Kimberly Howard, who has a whole model on this early childhood about the whole complexity with which they understand. The sooner they get that, the sooner they realize, these learning opportunities I have are really important. Because they're gonna support me in something I want to do. So it's not about they're using career as a way of providing that sense of meaning and understanding, organizing around that. So it's great stuff. And Damian Sweeney's the one from Kentucky State Leader who put this stuff together, or at least led the effort, and couldn't be more proud of having worked with him from the beginning when he came in. And he's now a mentor for so many other states, because it's just once you get it and you see this, you see how it goes together. And once you get that, each state builds something even better than the next state, because they see what they do. Oh, now let's add this in, right? So you see what Kansas did. Well, they learned from Colorado. They learned from Arizona, right? They learned from Wisconsin. And now each one is kind of building out the next phase of this. And you're right. I mean, I think the Castle developmental model that's in there was a really important way of showcasing how SEL and workforce readiness are connected. But then you take a state leader who sees that and can now translate that in a way that can move the state in this way and help educators and families, and you see the connections. That's just gold. That's just amazing.
Absolutely.
And I can't say just how talented these state leaders are and how passionate they are about this work. So it's great. It's really good. Well, that was a lot today. Good stuff. Really glad we got the chance to talk on all these things. Any closing thoughts before anything? We did a lot of talking, a lot of sharing.
We did do a lot of sharing. I did sort of internally laugh just now when you were talking about Dr. Howard and that sort of whole idea of like who you see in a career impacts the kind of careers that you feel drawn to. And I grew up in a family that watched Formula One. In my lifetime, there has never been, well, that's actually a lie. As a child, there were no female Formula One drivers on the grid. And that was like my childhood dream. Like I would design go-karts while watching the races on Sundays. But it was never, like I didn't see girls in karting. I didn't see girls in Formula One. And women have joined, they've come and gone. It's happened in the past. It's really happening now with F1 Academy. But like that was the childhood dream, was to be a racing car driver.
Yeah.
And so I do kind of wonder, you know, like what would I have done if I had seen a woman in a Formula One car to look up to, you know? And the fewest of the few end up there anyway. But it's that sort of thing, you know?
Yeah.
You see women as teachers, you see women as doctors, you see women in a host of jobs. But that really just does have such an impact.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking
On
forward
where
to
you
more
see
conversation
yourself.
around the role models and the impact that they need to have, and
Yeah.
how important it is for us to see and find those role models. So, Shrey, any thoughts?
Well, I was just going to add on to that. That reminded me, that unlocked a whole new memory of me wanting to become an astronaut
Yeah.
when I was a kid, just because I didn't see like anyone that looked like me as an astronaut.
Right.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, I need to change the world, like right now.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? So another story then. We'll finish. So my daughter, again, I know she's heard this story has been told so many times. She's immune to it now. But when she was really little, she wanted to be, we asked her a career pathway, 'cause she's got two parents that are doing career development stuff. So, you know, at 4 years old, what are your thoughts?
Conversation.
And the thought was, I want to be a princess. And I'm thinking, you know, that's not bad, because if she's the princess, then I'm thinking the parents are going to get something out of this. Maybe a castle, maybe some land, you know, something.
Just the castle developmental framework.
And then we not that castle, a castle, a real castle, a bricks and mortar castle. Sorry. So I'm thinking this could be pretty good. So, but then the follow-up question. So what do princesses do? They sing and dance. Okay, we're all like, okay, great. But now the interventionists start bringing in all the astronaut books, the space books. We've got these gorgeous picture books. You know, we got to work for months. We're just going, okay. So then 6 months later, so what are you thinking about what you want to be? I want to be an astronaut princess.
There we go.
There we go.
And do you know what an astronaut princess does?
They sing and dance in space.
They sing and dance in space, right? So very fun, right? That whole developmental thing of connecting, but you know, this is Professor Howard will unpack all of that for us when we get her on here about what that is and what that level is, because it's a very important developmental level. But it's just interesting to see. You know, they'll put it together, but they still have their ideas, right?
Right.
Yeah. Too funny. Too funny. All right. So, well, thank you all for taking a moment for youth. To access the resources from today's conversation, just go to our Center for Future Readiness YouTube channel, where you're going to find links to these resources as well as others, as well as our other podcasts. Coming soon, and we're in the beta phase of our resource portal, so that should be coming in the next couple months. We'll have that ready, which you'll be able to find all kinds of things as well.
And so we are going to continue to take a few more moments for youth on this topic of future-ready skills and exploration, and many others over the coming weeks. We hope you'll join us.
All right. So at Wheelock College of Education and Human Development, we are looking for undergraduate and graduate students who want to be part of this whole transformation. We've got needs for school counselors. We've got educators. We've got a great undergrad program, as you were just hearing from Annie, that's brand new and very social justice related. We've got a counseling program, and also really this is the time to, if you're interested, please reach out. And let's see the next thing. Oh, and I guess we're just going to say goodbye then. So goodbye from me, Scott Solberg.
And goodbye from me, Annie Bell.
Goodbye from me, Shraven Kathason.
All right.